For nearly 2 centuries, the Mughal treasury accumulated wealth on a scale that dazzled the contemporary world. But at the dawn of the 18th century, that massive accumulation of imperial capital completely shattered and dissolved into dust. Looking at this map of the Indian subcontinent in 1707, you see the empire at its maximum territorial extent under Emperor Aurangzeb. From Kabul to the Deccan, it was a sprawling continental superpower. Operating a territory this vast relied on a specific political mechanism: personal despotism. The entire administrative apparatus required a highly capable absolute monarch at the center to force compliance from regional governors and military commanders. This centralization contained a fatal flaw. The Mughals had no established law of primogeniture. The death of an emperor guaranteed a resource-draining civil war among all eligible heirs, and by 1707, the system was already starved. Aurangzeb had spent the last 27 years fighting continuous, exhausting wars in the Deccan. Those campaigns emptied the royal treasury, ruined standing crops, and pushed the agrarian tax base to the brink of collapse before the succession crisis even began. The Mughal collapse was a 150-year process of systemic failure, driven by factionalism, bankruptcy, and external shocks that dismantled the state piece by piece. Following Aurangzeb's death, a grueling 2-year war of succession left his 63-year-old son, Bahadur Shah I, on the throne in 1707. Recognizing the fragility of his position, Bahadur Shah adopted a pacific policy. He released the Maratha prince Shahu from captivity and confirmed Rajput chiefs in their states. But he failed to suppress a major Sikh rebellion in the Punjab. His general administrative neglect earned him the historical nickname of the Heedless King. When Bahadur Shah died in 1712, the next emperor was installed by powerful leaders of the Irani faction. A systemic inversion of power occurred. The nobility were dictating the monarchy. To address the fiscal crisis, they introduced the Izara system, auctioning the right to collect taxes. This brought quick cash, but allowed middlemen to exploit the peasantry, destroying the empire's long-term economic stability. By 1713, the Irani faction was outmaneuvered by the Said brothers, leaders of the Hindustani faction. Acting as kingmakers, they deposed Jahandar Shah and placed their own candidate, Farrukhsiyar, on the throne. It was Farrukhsiyar who, in 1717, issued a farman granting the British East India Company duty-free trading privileges in Bengal. This was a decision that would compromise Indian sovereignty for the next 2 centuries. Farrukhsiyar eventually found the control of the Said brothers too restrictive and organized a conspiracy to overthrow them. The brothers discovered the plot, and with the help of Maratha troops, they had the emperor blinded and strangled in 1719. For the first time in history, an emperor was executed by nobles. The throne's psychological inviolability was shattered. The emperor was a disposable pawn. Later that same year, the Turani faction, led by Nizam-ul-Mulk, assassinated the Said brothers and installed Muhammad Shah. Known as Rangila for his luxurious, frivolous lifestyle, he would reign for nearly 30 years, the last window of opportunity to stabilize the state. Muhammad Shah neglected state affairs entirely. Realizing the center was weak, provincial governors stopped sending revenue to Delhi and carved out autonomous regional states. Nizam-ul-Mulk established control in Hyderabad. Sadat Khan carved out Awadh. Murshid Quli Khan took Bengal. They maintained the nominal fiction of Mughal sovereignty, but the provinces and their wealth were lost. With the northwestern borders neglected and the treasury severely depleted, the Persian Emperor Nadir Shah sensed the vulnerability. In 1739, he invaded India, meeting the Mughal forces at the Battle of Karnal. The ensuing battle exposed the pervasive rot within the Mughal military, burdened by cumbrous equipment and obsolete tactics. Driven by bitter factional distrust among commanders who refused to coordinate, the Mughal army was defeated in just 3 hours. Nadir Shah marched into Delhi. Following a local uprising against his troops, he ordered a general massacre of the citizens. He stripped the royal treasury of 70 crore rupees and carted away the iconic peacock throne and the Koh-i-Noor diamond. The Battle of Karnal bankrupted the treasury and annihilated the empire's military prestige. It broadcasted to ambitious regional chiefs and foreign trading companies that the central authority in India was defenseless. By the mid-18th century, actual imperial control shrank until it barely extended past the physical walls of the Red Fort in Delhi. The loss of territory west of the Indus River opened the gates for Ahmad Shah Abdali. An Afghan general, he launched a series of repeated raids into northern India, plundering Delhi and the surrounding regions. Simultaneously, the Marathas pushed aggressively northward. By the 1750s, they reached the gates of Delhi, extracting a heavy tribute from the fractured northern provinces. They were now acting as de facto power brokers at the imperial court. When Shah Alam II ascended the throne in 1759, he was an emperor in name only. He spent early years wandering far from his capital. He lived in mortal fear of his own prime minister, unable to even enter Delhi. The total collapse of Mughal authority created a massive geopolitical vacuum. In 1761, the two rising powers fighting to fill it, the Marathas and the Afghans, clashed directly at the Third Battle of Panipat. The Marathas suffered a decimating defeat, losing tens of thousands of soldiers and top commanders. But Abdali, facing mutinies in his own ranks, did not stay to rule. He withdrew back to Afghanistan shortly after the battle. The Mughals were completely powerless, the Marathas were severely broken, and the Afghans had retreated. This left a fractured subcontinent with no dominant power to resist European colonial forces. In a desperate bid to reclaim authority, Shah Alam II allied with the Nawabs of Awadh and Bengal to fight the British East India Company. In 1764, the combined Indian forces suffered a crushing defeat at the Battle of Buxar. Following defeat, the Treaty of Allahabad was signed in 1765. Shah Alam II surrendered the Diwani rights, the legal right to collect land revenue. The emperor handed the primary economic engine of the subcontinent over to a foreign corporation. Shah Alam II lived as a British pensioner in Allahabad for years. He only returned to Delhi in 1772 by accepting the protective military escort of the recovering Marathas. The emperor now functioned as a captive pensioner. Rival powers kept him on the throne because issuing edicts under the Mughal name provided legal cover for their own expanding territories. Under Akbar II, who ruled from 1806 to 1837, the final pretenses of sovereignty were stripped away. In 1835, the East India Company officially discontinued calling itself a subject of the emperor and stopped issuing coins bearing the Mughal name. The final Mughal ruler, Bahadur Shah Zafar, inherited a title devoid of administrative or military substance. He was a poet and pensioner, confined to the Red Fort. During the 1857 revolt, rebel sepoys proclaimed him emperor. When the British suppressed the rebellion, he was captured and exiled to Rangoon. On November 1, 1858, Queen Victoria issued a proclamation that legally terminated the Mughal Empire, transferring control of India directly to the British Crown. This diagram illustrates the collapse. It began with the Jagirdari crisis, an aristocracy fighting over shrinking agricultural revenue. As nobles squeezed the peasantry, the treasury starved. Because the military was feudal, soldiers owed loyalty to regional paymasters. With an empty treasury, the emperor could no longer command an army. This paralysis invited invasions from Persia and Afghanistan, looting whatever wealth the state rebuilt, perpetuating the cycle of ruin. The tragedy of the later Mughals is that their socio-political system collapsed decades before their dynasty was officially extinguished. By the late 18th century, the Mughal Empire functioned as a convenient legal fiction, a hollow crown used by regional and foreign powers to legitimize their own rule over India.